Hello, I'm Paul Andrews from G4 Guitar School Ashford, and welcome to tonight's webinar. Tonight is the last of our 7 essential skills. Today we're going to be looking at aural. So if you haven't caught any others, check out my YouTube page, youtube.com/G4 Guitar Ashford, and catch up with the other 6. And the whole point of this series was to look at the 7 essential guitar skills that you need to focus on when you basically learn an instrument. Aural is, as I say, the last one, and quite often aural is one which kind of develops by itself. A lot of guitarists will kind of just let it develop naturally, especially in today's kind of guitar world, if you like, because we're so used to typing in a song on Google and it coming up with the chords, the tab, and then we go away and play it. Go back to yesteryear and you couldn't have that. You know, players like Clapton, those sort of players, listen to the music, listen to the vinyl, and would just absorb that sound. There's a lot that you can do just by listening to the track, which you can't obviously pick up looking at notation, or pick, a few chords and a bit of tab. So developing your ear will give you a lot more of actually what's going on in the song. So it's a skill that definitely needs to be developed, and it's one that needs to be developed in a very kind of systematic approach. And that's what we're going to basically start talking about today. So if you haven't really worked a year before, if you are one of those people who just jumps on the internet, taps out the riff in Google and it comes up, and you don't try and work out by ear, this will be obviously very useful because it's a skill we want to develop. It's a skill that every musician should develop, and it's one that you're going to need to develop if you want to get to that kind of next level. So when I'm talking about aural, I'm talking about ear training. I'm talking about the ability to listen to a song and to basically work it out. So the goal of any kind of ear training is to get to the point where we can listen to a song and work out an instrument. We don't have to try and look for these extra resources. We can just do it ourselves. I will say this does take a long time. It does take a long time for the ear to develop. What we're looking at here is developing the ear's ability to recognize pitches and rhythms, and that does take a long time to develop. But you've got to start early, and it will take time, so don't get put off. If, for instance, you try and work out a song by ear, it will take a bit of time, but you'll get it. The first few songs will take ages, but then the next one will take a little bit sooner, and then before you know it, you'll be working out a lot sooner. So in regards to ear training, we're looking really at pitch and we're looking at rhythm. They're kind of the two sides of it. So that by pitch, I mean you're hearing the sound, you work out what notes or chords are being played. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about pitch as in a single note, and we're talking about pitch as in a combination of notes, so our chords. In regards to rhythm, we're talking about how those notes and chords are being played. So not just what it is, but actually how it's sounding. The tricky part about ear training is you're going to hear that at once. You're going to hear our chords being played with the rhythm, or you're going to hear a melody played with the rhythm. So you've got to try and digest both of those. So as we talked about before with previous skills, we want to isolate each one of those and work on them independently. So we're going to start by really looking at kind of the rhythm. Sorry, not the rhythm. We're going to look at the melody. We're going to look at the pitch. And when we talk about pitch, we're talking about, I say, single notes for the minute. We'll talk about chords in a moment. And with single notes, the really first thing to do here is to work on what we call interval training. And what we got that is we want to work on taking a scale, like the C major scale, and the intervals are the distance between notes, basically. So we're going to do the distance between the first note and the other notes in the scale. Simple as that. Now our C major scale has 8 notes in it. And if I play the first note followed by the second note, that's referred to as a second, or a major second, because it comes from the major scale. If I then play the first note followed by the third note in the scale, we have a major third, because it's the third note from the major scale. But if I play the fourth note, it has a bit of a different name. It's called a perfect fourth. If I play the fifth note, that's called a perfect fifth. But then if I go and play the sixth, or the seventh, or the eighth, and I'll play the seventh then instead of the sixth, then they're called major as well, except for the eighth, which is called the octave. So we have a major second, third, sixth and seventh, and the octave, and the perfect fourth and fifth. And it's the fourth and fifth that we're really going to look at today. So a really good way of trying to work out this, and what I say we're trying to work out is if we hear a song, we can hear the distance between the two notes that are being played, or more notes eventually. But to start with just those 2 notes, that then can tell us straight away what is being played, and we can find those 2 notes quite simply and quite easily. And so really the way to start is with this, the fourth and the fifth. So I'm going from the first note scale to the fourth, or the first note scale to the fifth. And that's all we want, is just trying to recognise those two, basically. And a great way of doing this is with a few song references. So if we take the first note to the fourth, and we could use So Love Me Tender, or Aurally, depending on how you know that song. So if we hear that perfect fourth, after that, dun, dun, da, 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 you can just basically sing the rest of the song, and then I would recognise that as the perfect fourth. Da, 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 da. So if the song or the riff or the melody, whatever we're trying to work out, starts off with a perfect fourth, we can then recognise that through that song reference. Another good reference is perhaps Here Comes a Bride. That's quite nice as well. Again, a perfect fourth. And these kind of songs are really kind of stick in your brain, stick in your kind of memory. Is really where you want to go. You'll find one that works for you. So that's the first one to do, the perfect fourth. Da 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 da. Or da 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 da. So there's a couple there. To work out the perfect fifth, there's a few nice ones to this one. We could do, for instance, Star Wars theme, which is so that's quite a nice one. So, so try and use that one, or we can use Twinkle Twinkle, which is quite a nice one. So again, it's just trying to remember these song references. So for the perfect fourth, dun dun da 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 da, Aurally, Love Me Tender, or the Wedding March. And for the perfect fifth, we have I keep trying to say Star Trek theme, Star Wars, or Twinkle Twinkle. So they both work really well. Now the idea behind this is, if I could play those to you, you could then try and work them out. So for instance, if I was to go, I'm trying to hide the guitar so we can't see. If I was to go, there's my interval, and then you're trying to hum the song after it and find out what it was. So was it Aurally, or was it maybe Twinkle Twinkle? Bum, bum, ba, da, 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 da. So if you heard that then as the perfect fifth, what about then maybe dun, dun, da, 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 da. So perfect fourth. And this is what we want to get to, the level where we can hear the two notes and then we can hum the song or sing the song after it. And again, don't be silly about start singing them. The most important thing with ear training is really the voice. If we can try and hum these notes, we can get in tune with the guitar. That's really the secret. And the easy way of doing that is just playing through that scale and trying to hum it as you're going, trying to sing it as you're going. Really try and internalize that sound and really try and get it in your head. This is the most important scale in Western music, the major scale. So if we can get a good knowledge of that, and I think I talked about this last time in the reading, then we're well away. You've got to have a good, good knowledge of the major scale. So that's really the first step, is interval work, and work on the fourth, work on the fifth. Also the first note as well, or the unison, where you play the first note twice. So that distance is unison, they're both exactly the same note. And then we have our fourth, perfect fourth, we have our perfect fifth. So it's just time to start to hear those differences. A good way of doing this is you can obviously practice with a friend. Is a good way of doing it. There's lots of nice little ear games online. Justice Sarnak has a great little ear trainer app on the iPhone, or he actually has one on his site as well, which follows this same pattern. He starts with perfect fourth, perfect fifth, and I think it goes on to major second, major third, and then major sixth, major seventh, and then into minor intervals as well. So coming from the minor scale, but the first thing is the major. We want to try and work on that one first. So that's the way we want to start with that, is trying to train our ear to hear these distances between the notes, picking the major scale, as it's one of the most used scale in Western music, and then start trying to hear the distances between some of those notes in there, be it the unison, which is the first note played twice, be it the perfect fourth, which is the fourth note in the scale, so first note and the fourth note, be it the perfect fifth, which is the first note and the fifth note. That's what we really want to start working on. So once you start working on the intervals, the single notes, then you can start working on obviously bringing other things into it. And I'd say chords would be quite a good thing to look at as well. And the chords are basically a collection of intervals. So you'll hear, say, the perfect, or sorry, the third, the major third. Can't play tonight. Or the perfect fifth. And it's a combination of these intervals that give the chord its characteristics or its sound. Away from that, the chords themselves, we can start identifying the tonality of the chord. So be it a major chord, which has a happy, uplifting kind of sound to it. That's why you've found kind of quite happy songs tend to be written in major keys. Then on the flip side, be a minor song, which is written in the minor key. Using minor chords, and that sounds a bit sadder, a bit darker sounding. So you can create moods with the sort of chords you use, and it's just now trying to identify those moods as we hear them. I will point out here, when we're talking about ear training, we're not talking about perfect pitch. Perfect pitch is the ability to be able to hear a sound and basically label that sound as a note. So if I was to play that, you'd say, oh, it's a D note. That's not what we're trying to work on. That is a skill that can be developed. It is one that takes a very long time. So what we're working on here is relative pitch. We can hear a note and then a note to work out what it is relative to the note that we know, if that makes sense. So if I hear, for instance, that, and what note's that? I can play this one. Oh, that's higher than that one. Oh, it's that one. So you're working towards that note from another note, basically. So relative pitch is what we're really working on here. So this is a great thing with chords. Relative pitch meaning if we know that major sound, and then we hear that chord against the major chord, we can hear it sound sadder. So it's a minor chord. So this is very simple, kind of simplistic terms, but this is how we want to start going. Really simple kind of chords. Some great bands to look at here are maybe AC/DC. They use a lot of major or easy kind of strummy chords, and they tend to be in standard tuning. It's not too difficult. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking out some of their stuff. Nursery rhymes are a great way to go. Taking something like Happy Birthday, and taking something like maybe Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, which we talked about. There was the perfect fifth. So we already know the first couple of notes there. So taking that for your single notes. And for your chords, say bands like AC/DC and people like that. A good one I use quite a lot as well is Island and Sun by Weezer, because it's only kind of 4 chords for the verse, and I set that as a project for one of my classes the other day, and they actually quite well. And it's quite challenging as well because there's a lot of effects and there's a lot of layering of the guitars, so it can be a bit tricky. So I'll definitely say AC/DC might be good one to do. Any kind of just hard rock, where they're just playing a few chords. They're really trying to start there. It's quite a good place. So that's how I touched on the pitch. We want to start with interval playing. Then go on to chords to try and work out major and minor chords, and then sevens and things beyond that. But again, we don't want to go into too much detail yet. And then the last kind of thing is really rhythm. And there's some great rhythm things online. Again, Justin Sandicono has a rhythm trainer. I say his name a lot lately. There's a great one I found the other day, which is quite useful as well, which I can't remember the name for, but I'll try and find it in a minute. But that kind of next to the rhythm that it is written out, and there's another one where it plays rhythm, you actually have to write it out and notate it. So that's a really good one. We use that quite a lot for G4 because it really works well with our level system. So yeah, but if you Google rhythm training, there's some great stuff for that. It's a great book by David Oakes, who used it, an MI Musicians Institute book, which works on kind of rhythm reading, rhythm playing. Again, we talked about this a little bit in the rhythm, but that'd be good as well, just to try and read it and see it, and then try and hear it. Right, so try and hear a song and just try to mimic the rhythm is a good way to go, and try and think of your counting, and then try and think how that actually fall in the beats is a really good thing to do. Again, you really want to break it down these sections. Don't try and work out a song all at once, because you're going to be worried about the rhythm, you're worried about the pitch at the same time. Try and do one at a time. So combining is really the last stage to do. The next thing to do is then, yeah, say trying to work out songs, work on interval training away from it, work on rhythm training, trying to listen and hear those beats, how they fall, the divisions of the beats, if it's triplets, if it's 8th notes, 16th notes, that sort of thing. And then obviously combining them, trying to put them together. But then trying to actually do it, trying to work out some tunes, trying to find a band you like, and just trying to work them out. There's some great resources for this, things like Transcribe, Amazing Slow Downer, Riffmaster Pro, and there's a great one called AnyTune. These are all softwares where you can bring in the track, slow it down. You can change the pitch as well if you find you're doing like a flat tune, E flat. You can bring it up so you don't have to down tune, which I do quite a lot. If I'm doing sort of Sweet Child of Mine or something like that, or Van Halen track or Hendrix tune or something like that. Take it out of E flat and bring it back to standard tuning, so you don't have to tune down your strings. So that's a really good thing to do. Slow it down so you can hear it a little bit easier. AnyTune is brilliant because you can actually see the waveform in, I think you can do it in the iPad app, and I think there's one for Mac as well, where you can chop up the tune and actually label it as sections. You can even bring in songs straight from YouTube as well, or just convert it straight to the MP3 into the software. So I definitely recommend any tune. It's a bit pricey, I think it's about £20, something like that, but a very good tool to use. So just get a tune and just try and work it out. Try and listen to it. Try and find the bass notes that the bass guitar is playing. Quite often that will be the root note of the chord if you're trying to work out chords. Try and maybe take a vocal melody or just a little riff that's being played. Just try and find that first note, and then try and think how high or low is the other note. Is it higher than that note? So should we go this way? Is it lower? Should we go that way? And it will take time. It will be frustrating. But every time you do it, you know, you'll just get that a little bit quicker and quicker. So it's just trying to invest the time and it will pay you back. So those softwares can really help. There's another great one called Earmaster Pro, which I think is now version 6. I had it when it was on version 4. And that is a really good ear training piece of software that works on intervals, works on chords, chord progressions, which is the next place to take it once you've got your chords down. So yes, I definitely recommend that one. So I think that's earmasterpro.com. Go and check that out. So you've got all these software tools available. Just try and stay away from Google, basically. Put in the hard work, try and work it out for yourself. And yeah, you'll get a lot more from it, is what I'm trying to say. Right, so that pretty much, I think, covers everything I want to talk about. So just to recap, we want to start off thinking about ear training in different parts. We have melody and we have rhythm, or we have pitch and rhythm is probably a better way of saying it. Pitch can be broken down to melody or harmony when we do the chords, and then rhythm as well. So they're really the two parts. We want to work on each one separately and then combine them together. We want to start trying to get a few songs, say some simple stuff like AC/DC, some like 3-chord kind of rocky sort of tunes, and just trying to work out the chords. We want to take some simple tunes like Knock on Heaven's Door's quite a nice one for the melody, and just trying to work out what he said, like maybe in a Coldplay song, something like that. Kings and Leon are quite nice little kind of riffs as well to try and pick out. And just try and grab those pieces of software, maybe slow down, Riffmaster Pro, and just loop it around and just try and work it out. So it will take a bit of time, but it's well worth the investment. Okay, so that's pretty much it for today, looking at Aural. I'm going to have a quick look to see if we have any questions. One thing I'll say as I'm doing this is the end of obviously the 7. Next week, I am doing an online workshop where we're going to be looking at the top 5 guitar riffs as voted for by the BBC. They did a poll, I think it was last month, on the top 100, and they have then kind of released that, the whole 100, and we're going to basically look at the top 5. Whole Lot of Love, we've got, what else we've got in there, Layla, Smoke on the Water, there's some great ones, Sweet China Minds. It's going to be quite a fun walkthrough for basically like an hour, just teaching the riffs, going through, talking about technique, talking about a little bit of history and little interesting facts to talk about them as well. So you can find out a bit more information about that by going to bit.ly/guitar riff, and that'll take you to the Google page where you can basically watch it from and ask questions on the night. So that is Monday the 20th at 8 PM, we basically kick off. So there's been a question asked, is there any easy ways of remembering the intervals? And then a follow-up question which states, scrub that last question, you just answered it, and you're awesome. I didn't want to say that, but yes, you are quite correct. No, but yeah, that's it. It's references that you've got to try and use, and these song references are the way to go. If you're a G4 student, you can request the Aural book, which will basically have this in it, or the theory book, which will show you all the song references for all the major and minor intervals. If you're not, then I'd say head over to g4guitarmethod.com and purchase the basic beginner pack, and that will give you the access to that book and the resources. So just to recap, we want to start with interval training. We want to break down chords and pitch to 2 separate things, and then rhythm as kind of the third. Then look at combining them, take in some software, trying to work out a few songs, and then just kind of going from there. But do not cheat, do not go on Google, and try and work out yourself. It's a lot better in the long run. Improve your ear, improve your ability to work out music and identify chords and be able to actually compose as well. So it'll make you a lot more versatile. So yes, there's my lecture on why you want to be doing ear training. And I'll hopefully see you next week for yeah, some riffs. So next Monday will be, say, the riff workshop. So I hope you see you then. Any questions at all, let me know. You can follow me on facebook.com/G4guitar Ashford. And yeah, I'll hopefully see you next week. Cheers.